Hi everyone, it's MA. I'm coming back with part 2 of the Editor's Pick Decks Tarot Tag. And I think what I've been trying to do here is, I'm showing decks that I use and love, but I'm really thinking about the parameters that someone might use to kind of make their own picks. And I will also say I haven't stuck too closely with the larger description in the original tag about what these decks mean. I'm just kind of generally going with the title of the prompt. So deck number 8 is a hug deck. So I have, again, what I've been doing is a mass market and an indie for this. So for my mass market in this Cozy Hug bag is the Herb Crafters Tarot. I find this deck, took me a while to learn how to read with it, but I find it's very, I don't want to say gentle, but it's very, the way that things are drawn is very soft. The guidebook is a gem as far as either using the plant or including actions. And it is, I guess, even when the card is a little challenging, it's a very cozy deck for me. And this would be my mass market pick for when I just need something that's kind of kind and also constructive. So I pick the Herb Crafters Tarot. My indie pick in this prompt is the Gentle Tarot. Probably most people are familiar with this deck. Again, it's got a softness to it, even again with the more challenging cards, and especially when using the guidebook. I just have the standard guidebook that was with the first, I think this is the first edition. I love that there's so many animals in it. The people are drawn very soft outlines. The colors are saturated but also muted. And I just find that it's a very kind, it's a good deck to have a nice conversation with when I feel like I need a little support and maybe I'm bringing something difficult and I need the deck not to be too, in my face and abrupt. Cool. The next one is a feel-good deck. And when I think about feel-good decks, I think I gravitate toward color. So my pick for the mass market feel-good deck, if I can get the bag open, is the Queer Tarot. It is just so colorful and so punchy, and it's a complete, Smith-Waite redo. But the vibrancy and just the people, these are all based on the models are all named in the guidebook. They're all people the creators know. Love the Lover's card. Yeah, it's just, I'm not going to say that every reading I'm going to get is feel good, but somehow getting messages from this deck with these colors and this just really wide array of people being depicted is very pleasing. It can really kind of soften the blow sometimes. Okay, that's the Queer Tarot Mass Market. For indie, and I don't know if this is still available, so I apologize. This was a Kickstarter I backed probably 5 years ago, is the Self-Love Tarot by Hannah Tricor. It's kind of a pippy deck. It's just very, again, the color, the vibrancy, the flashy little gold bits. The characters, again, kind of softly drawn. Obviously human, but not in a super realistic way. The colors go with the suits, just beautiful. And yeah, this is a good card for when a good deck for when I need a little boost from the color scheme and just the overall vibe of the deck being kind of good-natured and focused on, as it says, self-love. Okay. Prompt number 10 was a versatile deck. And my general parameter for that, this is my opinion, whatever system you are the most familiar with, whatever deck or artwork you have the most background and feel the most confident with, is to me going to be the most versatile and be able to give the widest range of readings. So for me, that's a Smith-Waite deck. This is the Centennial in a tin, which is also versatile in its ability to be, this is the mass market tarot in a tin from US Games. It can be thrown in a bag. It can go around with me. I don't have to be too precious with it. The cards are on the smaller side. I don't need a big reading space. It doesn't draw a lot of attention to it. The cards aren't going to get bent in the tin. And whatever deck you know kind of inside and out or are progressing toward knowing that way, my opinion is that's where you're going to have the most flexibility in how you read. Because, of course, tarot is a never-ending game of learning and expanding, which is one of the reasons I love it so. So that's the mass market pick. I mean, for indie, do you really need an indie? I don't know, but there's so many beautiful versions out there. This is the Solara Occulto. Again, really just Smith-Waite redo in a very, I guess, consistent and concise color scheme. The cards are larger. The backs are flashier. This is something I probably would not ever throw in my bag and take anywhere. It's a little more of a luxurious deck. I might use this more for myself or when I have friends over. Sometimes we do readings with this. But again, you're getting the same basic symbolism and layout as in a Smith-Waite deck. So, you know, up to you. If you feel more connected to a more luxurious or produced version of whatever standard tarot system you're used to, I'd say I read just as well or better with kind of my old standard well-worn Smith-Waite decks. So that was versatility. For prompt 11 has to do with inspiration. I'm going to go with creative inspiration. And I have two decks for that and kind of different parameters for them. So my mass market pick is the William Blake Tarot of the Creative Imagination. And that's because the content, the guidebook, all the substance of this deck is really focused on the creative process. It is reused or art in the style of William Blake's 18th century watercolors. The cards are renamed a lot. The guidebook, a lot of it focuses on what the card means in connection with the creative process. I think, for example, the minors, looking at the Six of Science, there's a definition of the card meaning, but then there's a section in the creative process. Your imagination needs to be uncovered or unleashed by resolving contradictory elements and seeking spiritual guidance. So the whole deck, the focus is on creative work and a creative mindset. And so that's why I picked that one, and that's what I use this deck in connection with. On the indie side, so I think the parameter I'm thinking about is a deck with something about the way it's made inspires you to do work in whatever like art form or creative process you're involved in. So I picked the Guided Hand Tarot. This is a indie deck that I think is still available. I happened to get mine secondhand. And because I do allegedly occasionally make collage art, a deck like this, again, this is an analog collage process. It kind of inspires me to go make something. It inspires me to maybe try making a tarot card, go make a collage. It inspires me to say, if I'm making a collage, bringing in different textural elements from other media, like this is some cutout images combined with hand-drawn images and hand lettering and what looks like embroidery or fabric. So something that sparks you or that's even aspirational in the art form or creative project form that you like to work in is probably a good pick to think about in picking out an inspirational deck too. And for some people it might be spiritually inspirational. I just happen to go with this theme. Prompt number 12, best deck for beginners, or what I would recommend for beginners. I think I would recommend pick a system. Personally, I picked the Smith-Waite system. I did find that having scenes on the cards was very helpful in helping me learn. And, you know, you could start with many other things. You could start with many other versions of this that are a little more modern or diverse. There's plenty out there. But I think learning a system, one of the three, Marseille, which I'm not sure I would recommend so much for beginners, not because it's hard, but because you're not going to have that added boost of the scenes to interpret. Marseille, even Thoth, but I don't know. I think for me, Smith-Waite is such a great beginning, and you can go a lot of directions from that. This happens to be, I guess, a semi-indie version from Make Playing Cards. It's Conrad Stain made a, with permission, facsimile of someone's copy of a 1909 Roses and Lilies. But I just picked this because I have my other Smith-Waite decks pulled out for different categories. So yeah, I'd say pick a system, learn a system. And I think with this one, you can combine, out of the three main systems, it's the best one for combining intuitive interpretation plus learning. So that's what I would recommend. Pick a system. I only pulled one deck for this. Prompt number 13 for professionals. Okay, so this is a kind of a big ranging topic. Again, I'm going to talk about Smith-Waite and say the amount of symbolism available in that deck, I think, I don't know that I need more than that ever. A couple of things I would recommend to think about if you're reading professionally. First of all, I highly recommend getting a version of whatever your mass market go-to system deck is and cutting off the words. I cannot tell you enough how my vision into the cards and noticing of things that I had never seen before really just popped as soon as I took the words off. And maybe that's a me thing. It wasn't so much about taking the borders off. It was about not seeing the words first. It was about going straight to image and not being distracted by language. It really opened up my reading. So I would say that's something to consider. Another thing, which is not illustrated by the decks I pulled out, but, you know, for anyone reading professionally, I would think about knowing who your audience is going to be. Considering having decks that represent a wider range of people than you're going to find in this particular iteration. In whether you might be in a situation where you might want to avoid cards with any nudity, or you might find yourself reading for children. And not every deck I have is diverse. I read for myself a lot. You know, it's not really so much. Now, I had the Lightseers and I gave it away because it didn't resonate for me reading for myself. However, I've used that deck to read for other people, and the reaction people have to it is just one of delight. So I would definitely rebuy that one if I were going to read for other people again. And also some of the other decks I've used, I can't really convey the delight and surprise that I've seen on people's faces when I turn over a card that looks like them. And I'm talking about people that aren't as familiar with tarot and maybe had a preconceived idea of what tarot looked like. And you know, to be doing a reading for them or pulling cards for them, and you know, seeing a strong, handsome black man as the emperor, or to see someone wearing a sari in a card, has really just the gleeful surprise on people's face when they didn't know that they could be a part of tarot in that way. And so any other parameters aside about why to consider diversity in decks, that reaction alone is just a beautiful thing. And also certain decks I use, I like, if I'm doing a reading about the larger world, I like the deck to look more like the world I'm in. But again, not all my decks exhibit that at this point in my collection. Okay, so that was the professionals. Oh, so part two, that was a mass market universal weight deck. Part two, the indie version I pulled, is another thing to think about, is getting a deck that is outside your comfort zone. Whatever your comfort zone seems to be. Now, mine seems to be decks that are narrative, or I'm fine with having lots of symbolism in decks, but what really I'm not so good at is the decks that are kind of relying on emotional expression. And I tried a few decks, they don't all work for me, but this is the Salsa Burrito mini pocket version. And this is the one that really ended up working for me. I had a few others that were too photorealistic, or I just didn't relate to as much. But this one, here's a good example, the Three of Swords. Things that are more emotion-based were more of a challenge for me, and it took me a while. But I'm really glad that I work with this deck. And that for me was a little comfort zone push. So I recommend, whatever your comfort zone is, try to find a deck that challenges that for you. Okay, prompt 15, Witchy Vibe. So here's a weird parameter I have for Witchy Vibe. For me, Witchy Vibe, I like to be able to read it in the dark. I like to be able to light like a single candle and see the deck. And it also has a witchy vibe. Okay, so for mass market, I picked Barbara Walker Tarot in a Tin. This is a vibe for sure. And if I were doing some kind of really intense spell work, I might pull this out, or some kind of intensive reading. But I think it's got that witchy vibe for sure. And yeah, that's my mass market pick. Someone advised me in the comments on one of my videos that you can get the expanded guidebook e-version for about $3 online, which is good because this just comes with the small little white book. Okay, I'm going to show something that's, I hate to do this, but it is out of print, but it is my beloved friend, the Tarot of the Crone. Again, I'm doing this to show you the, I guess, the graphic parameters. Aside from the overall witchiness of this deck, the strong graphics, and the very focused color scheme, this reads by candlelight like no other deck I have. I suppose if it didn't, I'd still be searching, but it's really just very special. And I love it. But something to think about is, what is a witchy vibe mean to you? What are you going to use? In what witchy way are you going to use a deck? I have other decks where the guidebook is kind of spell forward. Thinking of Phyllis Carrot's Witch's Wisdom and the Enchanted Tarot, where they have actions or little spells in connection with each card. So that may be something that they like. Okay, the last one is astrology, which is not really a thing for me. And the really only parameter I've kind of started to look at that for is working with a Thoth deck a little bit. So for mass market, I had bought this Oracle years ago, and I don't really use it. I almost got rid of it. But really, I think it is good as a set of flashcards for me to remember, okay, when I see this, that's the symbol for Jupiter. That's the symbol for Uranus. The cards aren't that exciting. For example, the Sephiroth on the Tree of Life, they're all just a different colored circle. The elements, they have Reiki symbols in here, chakra symbols. But the guidebook is pretty decent. So as I'm getting to the point where, okay, now I can recognize the symbol for Jupiter, but what are the qualities of Jupiter? These are almost like flashcards that I can just go look at or put them up where I display my daily card draws so I can kind of get those symbolic associations into my brain a little more. Okay, and again, because I'm not really an astrology person, my most touch that I'm having with astrology and decks lately is I've been looking a little at the thought system by way of the Tabula Mundi, and again, complete novice with the Thoth, but having this kind of dual astrological planetary association, the minors, is really interesting to me, and how the visual of each card ties back to a pair of majors. So this is the Aeon, or the World card, being the element of fire, the Empress being Venus. And this is all news to me, by the way, okay? So some of you are probably like, duh, but no, this is news to me. The Strength card being Leo, renamed as Lust. Yeah, so this is about as far as I've gone into astrology, but I'm finding it very interesting thinking of the quality of the astrological bits and how those inform the reading of the card. So that is it. I feel like I rambled a bit, but I just thought this was a fun tag, and thanks for watching. Bye.